Hi, I'm Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney. I am delighted to be here with all of you in Mount Kisco this morning. Some of you may ask what we're doing in Mount Kisco, since Mount Kisco is not technically in my district, but we are right on the edge of my district, so I don't want to say anything before I acknowledge my partner in government, Congresswoman Nita Lowy, who has been such a help and a mentor to me. Brian from her staff is here, and we are working very closely in Washington on all the issues we're going to be discussing this morning. But we wanted to be here because this is where Neighbors Link is, and my district runs right around Mount Kisco, and this organization, I believe, is such an important model for how we all have to come together and work together, dealing with the world as it is, and solving problems so that we can come forward as one community. You know, this is what we're calling, this is a field hearing, which means it's an opportunity for me as a member of Congress to hear from members of the community. And so I just want to say to all of the folks who are in the room, we are working on this issue, many of us in Washington. It is frustrating because it's a big problem and it's a big piece of legislation, and a lot of people have a lot of different ideas about it. I am absolutely committed to fixing this problem at the legislative level. But we will never create the kind of community we want to create unless we all work together at the local level. And so we have a big legislative challenge in Washington, but we also have a human challenge, and a challenge to come together as neighbors. No puedo hablar muy bien el castellano, pero viví en Perú, pero hace 15 años, entonces disculpe, no puedo hablar muy bien. How many people who are here were born outside the United States? ¿Me entiende? And I won't ask for a show of hands, but if I were going to ask for a show of hands for the number of folks whose families came here without proper documentation, I would be included in that, because my ancestors came to the United States without proper documentation as well. And so whether folks are here through the proper legal procedures or without the proper documents, we have to come together as a community to figure out a way forward. And I believe there is a good bill that has been passed from the Senate with 68 votes of support across party lines. This is not a Democratic problem or a Republican problem. We should pass legislation now. The time for comprehensive immigration reform is now. Necesitamos una reforma comprensiva, and I am working very hard for that. I had the privilege of visiting with the fasters on the mall this week in Washington. There are a group of Americans who are fasting to try to bring attention to this issue. And the reason I love that it's a fast and not a protest or a hunger strike is that it reminds us that this is a moral issue, not just a legislative issue. You know, this issue of comprehensive immigration reform brings together lots of folks who don't always work on the same side of issues together. It brings together labor and the Chamber of Commerce. It brings together progressive Democrats and evangelical religious conservatives. It brings together the Catholic Church and some of the more liberal elements in the Congress. Because at the end of the day, this is about the story of the Good Samaritan. This is about knowing who our neighbors are. And as the Lord taught us, you know, everyone is our neighbor. And we have to treat everyone as we would want to be treated. And we have to come together and find solutions. I'm delighted to be here with Carola Bracco and Neighbors Link, where I think we are setting an example that the country can learn from. My friend Cynthia Brill said to me, you have to come down and learn about this and hear from the people in the community. And you have to take this example and you have to bring it into the conversation in Washington, because, you know, there's two things going on in America right now. There's people who want to fight and have a big fight. And there's people who want to cooperate and come together. And My mentor, President Clinton, talks about this a lot these days. You can make a lot of noise fighting. You can go pretty far in politics fighting. You can get on cable TV and people know your name, and you can create a big stir, and you can win an election by fighting, by turning people against one another. But you can't get anything done. You will never achieve anything. We'll never achieve anything in America if we don't cooperate, if we don't come together, if we don't learn how to work with people we disagree with. And on this week when we're memorializing and celebrating the life of Nelson Mandela, we should all learn from that lesson that even in the face of great hatred and great injustice, the way forward is through love and cooperation and community. And that is the lesson that is the moral force behind this issue. And it's why people of great religious faith and of great conviction are coming together to say we cannot wait. The only reason to wait is because you either can't deal with people you disagree with, or you think there's some political game to be played by waiting. If you want to move the community forward together, you want to move now. And there's a good bill now, and we need to act now. And I'm absolutely committed to that. But the point of today is not to hear me give a speech. The point of today is to hear from all of the wonderful folks we have brought here who are involved in this issue, both as folks who benefit from this terrific organization, who work here, who are involved in this issue from different perspectives. And so I want to call each of them forward in turn to say a few words about who they are, how they come to this issue, and how we can move forward together. And I want to begin by welcoming up to the neighbor to the microphone, Carola Bracco from Neighbors Link, who can kick us off. Thank you all.
Thank you everybody for being here today, and welcome to Congressman Maloney to Neighbors Link. Thanks so much for giving us all the opportunity to testify before you today. And on behalf of Neighbors Link, I'd like to thank all the panelists that are here today. I appreciate your efforts out in the community every day. And what you're doing today is really just one piece of what I know you do out in the community regarding immigration. I would also like to recognize our mayor, Mike Sindrich, for being here today. Thank you, Mayor. Y bienvenidos a todos que están aquí hoy para apoyar reforma migratoria. Ustedes saben que hoy vamos a charlar en inglés, pero después de esta reunión podemos volver a charlar y hablar en español durante esa época, si quieren. Neighbors Link offers education and employment opportunities for the immigrant community. Our mission is to strengthen the whole community through the healthy integration of immigrants. Study after study confirms that immigration and economic growth go hand in hand, and the history of this country proves it. We hear it over and over again. White House reports, Independent Institute, made up of 500 economists, Social Security Administration's chief actuary, George Bush's congressional budget analysis, all have found that with immigration reform, the government cost for public services will be more than covered by the revenue generated. Today, as we live with our broken immigration system, our thirst for this workforce and the advantage of having this workforce in our country is evident at every turn. The Brookings Institute states that the skills brought to this country by immigrant workers complements the skills of native-born workers. This means that jobs are not taken away by immigrant workers, but rather jobs are created by immigration. As we live through our broken immigration system, today undocumented workers already contribute $15 billion a year to Social Security without receiving any benefit in return. And I said $15 billion. Our current system also fuels an underground economy that forces men and women into abusive conditions. So what's keeping us from implementing immigration reform? I believe that possibly the opposition to reform is based on fear and emotion. And we have been down this path before as a country, when we desegregated our schools and during the civil rights movement. There are some critical, practical issues that we have to address, and reform will help us do this. For example, in this country, we have 4 million children, U.S. citizen children, that have at least one undocumented parent. That's 4 million kids that are being raised by parents or a parent that under our current system are severely limited in their ability to integrate and raise their U.S. citizen children. The decision to migrate is a decision that is forced on a family, forced by the conditions that they live in and by the economic policies of governments in their home country and years of foreign policy of the United States. Couple these conditions with our own thirst for labor in this country, a need in this country that we have for a working class community that works in our homes, in our yards, and in the restaurants that we frequent, and combined, we have several conditions present that all encourage immigration. To migrate, to leave family, home, and culture is rarely a choice. It is a survival strategy. Our experience at Neighbors Link and in this community teaches us, for generations that choose to migrate, it is a traumatic experience full of loss and sacrifice. For those that are brought here as children or left behind in their country, there is a tremendous guilt, for it is because of them and their future that their parents have given up everything. This added stress in the family is overwhelming, and as they struggle to achieve in a new culture or continue living in their home country, the struggle goes on. To live this life and then live it in fear of deportation would be debilitating for most of us. I tell you this, not so that you will feel pity or feel sad, but rather so that you will see the immense courage, resourcefulness, and ingenuity that is required to be an immigrant. It is no wonder that immigrants are 2 times more likely than native-born Americans to start a new business in the United States today. But to be stuck in this limbo today without immigration reform while you are already a contributing member of this community is unfair and unjust. Immigration reform is critical to the success of our communities, and I encourage us to pass a fair and just bill. Thank you.